Welcome to the Site Visit podcast. Leadership in construction with perspective from the job site. With your hosts, Andrew Hansen, James Faulkner, and Christian Ham.
From the SiteMag studio in Yaletown, Vancouver.
Let's get down to it. Daniel, how you doing?
Pretty good, thanks, James. How you doing?
Doing very well. Saw you yesterday. You got the microphone. You got everything set up.
It's beautiful. I'll just show you. It's all here.
Oh yeah, there it is. The
Nice.
Site Visit microphone.
Yeah. You guys have a
Even
nice
looks like
setup.
our logo.
I like that coming in one, 2 minutes, set up, box, and good to go. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And we want to do more of these podcasts remote. Obviously, it just works best with people's days and their routines and all that kind of stuff. So to be able to get the best quality, I mean, we can send out a little studio in a box, and it works pretty well.
Nice.
Yeah.
So if I can say, I mentioned to you, James, when we first had a decent talk in the pub when we were talking about transitioning.
Yeah, the
from
lunch.
The lunch, yeah. Sorry, it was lunch, but it was in the pub, but it was a lunch, not a beer, right? So
Yeah.
I mentioned to you that I kind of we use SiteMax for quite a few years, right? And we like the software, and you guys developed greatly. The one thing I noticed, and it was last year, I don't know, it was maybe in the summer, I don't know when that podcast came out, and it was one of the Kindred principles. And I listened to the whole podcast, and I says, this is a great idea. I actually, I don't know, it was almost an hour long, maybe even longer. I listened to it, and I really realized it's a great idea. Because I listened to the stories, what he had to say, what his experience are, and I says, wow, that's great. And it just kind of keeps the community, you learn, you listen for an hour and you learn so many things. So I said, it's great. So, and I'm glad that I can be one of the guys to say my story,
100%.
Well, yours is very learning from, all the things that we chatted about at the pub. I mean, let's just talk a little bit about your where you came from, because you're sort of new to Canada in the last several years. So why don't let's just go from your professional age into deciding to come to Canada and what you wanted to get done. So tell us about that.
So my story is I come from, and you probably hear it by the accent, which I was at the beginning I was trying to lose it, but now I kind of find it. Hey, keep it. So it's been 17 years ago. In October it will be 18. In October 2003 we moved, me and my girlfriend at the time, now wife, we moved together from Slovakia. It used to be Czechoslovakia. Well, the hockey country, right? Czechoslovakia. There's, back in the day when I was a kid, 7-year-old, there was only a couple good countries playing, decent hockey. It was like Russia, Czechoslovakia, USA, Canada, number one. And so there was big gap, and then everybody else, Finland, Sweden, they were catching up. But I remember we were top 3-4 countries playing all the time. So that was my passion, my sport. Unfortunately, I grew up in a small town where we didn't even have a hockey club or a rink, so I was just dreaming. My parents didn't have enough money or time to drive me to, the bigger city where the rink was. So it was just a dream. So I played soccer when I was growing up in a small town in central Slovakia. And so my dad, something about how I got to this business is my dad he's a civil engineer, opened his own business as a small general contractor while I was, I don't know, maybe 10, 11, 12. So we kind of got on his own. He worked for bigger companies, like state-owned companies, because there was in a regime where everything was owned by the state, but people were getting education, getting jobs, and everything. So, and then when in the revolution, I think 1989, where the communism kind of broke out, and then people were able to open their own businesses and start being entrepreneur, and borders open. Curtain wall just broke out. It was like in early 1990s, right? So we kind of started feeling a freedom coming from the West. We could speak whatever we want to. We could listen to the music whatever we want to. It was finally a bit of a fresh air. And I remember I was 14-year-old grade 8 when this happened. So I remember that exactly. Yeah, finally, now we can grow a long hair, because we couldn't, like everybody was cut the same, the military haircut and stuff. So we kind of celebrated the freedom, and that's where all the entrepreneurial started, being okay. So yeah, I worked for my dad. I went to the we call it a grammar school. After I finished grade 8, we go, like, it's a 8-year elementary school. Then you go to the grammar school. It's a 4-year high school preparation for university. Basically, grammar school is a university oriented high school. Did that and then went to university. But again, like, I was growing up working every summer for my dad since I was 14. Learned a lot, hands-on, how he runs the business and whatnot, using tools. Even I was operating a small Bobcat machine, digging the foundation for our own house when we were building, using a bigger backhoe, the 4-wheel backhoe, making some money when I was 17, 18 in the summer. So that always helped. Then I got to university, but I picked a different field. I said, I'm not going to do what my dad is doing because it's too tough. It's too much work. I want it easier. So I picked and I wanted to be closer to the nature. So I said forest, forestry is pretty decent, and so I went to forestry university. It's a technical university. It's basically you have different fields. So it was technical university. I picked a forestry engineering degree with the economies and marketing towards the end. So there was a business oriented engineering degree. So it's kind of hybrid between, you had an engineering degree, but at the end you got a lot of economy and marketing and finances and stats. So it was 5-year degree, 5-year university degree. I studied for 3.5 years straight, passing just no problem. It was pretty good experience. And then I says, I got to do something. When was it? 1997. So I was in a 4th year. It was a first semester in the 4th year. I said, I got to do something. I cannot just go fly through the university. And I wanted to travel, learn a different language, and always English. Like I was born close to the Ukrainian border, which is very far east in Slovakia. And then later on we moved to the central part where I grew up. Like, I was only very young when we moved. So it was close to the Ukrainian border. So, and I don't know why, but I didn't like the communist kind of regime and stuff. So I says, I will never travel, east of my country. I'll always travel west as far as I can. That was my dream when I was growing up.
Vancouver or Hawaii is probably
exactly. Yeah, I could actually move to, Tofino. That's the furthest west you can go on this side. By the way, I got married there in Tofino. So that
amazing.
dream kind of happened. I went all the way to Tofino Beach.
Cool.
Anyway, so that's my story. And like I said, went travel, interrupted my studies for a full year, traveled to the States, spent 3 months learning, kind of improving my English because it was just high school English. And, you got to practice before you understand and speak properly. Went to Michigan, small town, Muskegon on the Michigan Lake. Beautiful summer. I spent there working for $1 an hour and food and housing. But hey, the best times ever. 3 months working I was working as a dishwasher, and then later on I was a cook. And it's a great experience. 3 months, my English improved quick. And then I went to visit my uncle in New Jersey, and he was working on a construction site, so I worked with him for about 6 months, making some money, which I didn't make any. Making $1 an hour, even if you have a free food and housing, makes, it's nothing.
Not much.
But it's, hey, great experience. I made a lot of friends, I traveled a little bit, and then after 9 months spent in the U.S., I went back home, finished my university. Actually, I rejoined a 4th year, 2nd semester, and then I met my wife there. Well, the girlfriend. So we got know each other. Finished the last couple years, graduated, and then so we got a degree. And then we worked for a couple of years. She worked in a different company. I worked in a different company. And so we always wanted to move out, like together, travel for a year or so. So I always, and since I was in the U.S., and he says, well, I want to go to English-speaking country. So we put a list together, and he says, she was in Israel. She had the similar story as I was. So she interrupted studies, went to Israel, worked there, lived there, blah, blah, blah. So we kind of had something in common. We wanted to leave the country for at least, year or two or something for more experience. And so we said, great. So let's pick a country where we want to go and apply. And obviously Canada was one of the top countries. Like it was 2000 and I think I put an application in it was in 1999. Canada was top one. Then we try Australia. The US was kind of a lottery, and then Israel. But Israel was not really safe. It was on and off with the wars going on. So I said, number one, Canada. We put an application in, and a year and a half later, we've been invited to a couple of interviews to the consulate, and they gave us, within a year and a half, we were free to go as a landed immigrant, which is a legal way to come in and work,
Yeah.
So that was in 2003. I remember that was the flight restrictions where, you could carry two heavy luggages, like, 32 kilos, like 65 pounds luggage, and you could have two of them. So, Hey, we packed what we could have, and we landed here in Vancouver. And since then, we only traveled back home, 5-6 times, not too often, maybe every 2-3 years.
Crazy.
And then, so my story started in Vancouver in October 2003.
Wow, that's just the part where you're talking about, you grew up in your early days and, you had to all have the same haircut and you had all these restrictions. I mean, not a lot of people have had that. So obviously, everyone can have this idea of being spoiled or being, born in you could be born in, a really, born in Somalia or something like that. I mean, you're born into circumstances that don't give you great opportunity, but with your circumstances, you had that really great ramp of being restricted, being free, and then going to the most free country in the world, Canada, and being able to flourish. So you never forget those days. So that's probably what's dovetailed into the work ethic you have, because you know where you've come from, and not a lot of people have come from that.
I agree, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of people who come, and especially I met a lot of immigrants, tons. When I came here, you always you meet with your community, with your people, like coming from Czechoslovakia or Eastern Europe, whatever.
Yeah,
met a lot of them, but they have the similar. I agree with that part, because if nothing is given to you for free, you have to fight for it. You find a value. You got to work hard for a bit of a freedom. We had to work so hard. There was a revolution, and the students were kind of says we got enough. We want to be free. Blah blah blah. That happened. They had to work hard. But if in the countries like North America, it's probably one of the countries where there was no totalitarian regime, and that's why people in North America, whether it's Canada or US, they take it for granted, right? Rather than people, I would say, the rest of the world. There was always, throughout the history, there was some sort of oppression, and people had to fight to either break the regime or work hard to survive. So I think, the people from that side of the world, they had to work a little harder, and I think that builds a bit of a character as well. And nothing's for free on this planet, so you got to work hard to get somewhere. And we are still considered, I would say, even from region where I come from, we are still lucky. I would call it top, 5-10% of the planet, because the rest of the planet is still kind of even worse than us. So coming here, it gives you that, I would say, resiliency. You don't just give up, because you were growing up, not giving up. So you go and you keep going.
Totally.
But at the same time, I one thing, and I'm going back to, I digress to hockey a little bit, because that's what,
I was hoping you would, because I want to talk about that for a second.
There you go. I remember first couple of years, I met some old immigrants who were here probably for 20 years, and they escaped in a hard way through the communist regime, or through there was ways how to escape with the family. So imagine you're in your mid-30s and you have two young kids and you decide, okay, I got enough of this system, I got to go. But there's no legal way to go. So you got to, people were kind of almost running through the borders with the cars, hoping that nobody shoot them from the back, and they come through and the other country will accept them, like Austria, Germany, whatever, like all the Western countries, right? Back in the day. And I met one of the guys who had it like that, like it was pretty rough and tough, but he made it with the kids. He settled, and he told me, "Hey, Daniel, back in Czechoslovakia, there was many good things and not and many bad things, obviously. One of the decent things was the discipline where regime was kind of, you had a military service. Like you had to go to 2-year military service. You reached 18, regardless of your education, you go to military service. If you go to the university, then you get your service done through the university, but still you got to do it. And it's kind of shorter term. So this guy says, well, but Canada doesn't have the mandatory military service, but Canada has the hockey. I says, what do you mean hockey? Well, that teaches you something, You start early, you got to discipline, you got to work hard, and you got to. It teaches you the team effort, like in the like a bit of a army thing. It just you have more fun, obviously. You're shooting pucks instead of the guns, but hey,
yeah.
I listened to him and I said, "You're right, man. Like hockey was our thing, and it's a tough sport, but it's a rewarding sport. It teaches you a lot of good lessons. You grind every day. You don't grind, you don't work hard. Guess what? There's an next guy who is gonna be on playing, and then you're not. So I like really that. And my both kids, I got 2 boys. And I told them, listen, there's no military for you, but hey, there's going to be hockey for you. And they, you know what?
I love it.
They work hard. And the older one, he made it to academy. So he plays the academy hockey, which is
nice.
It's a great program. So we are lucky, it's a lot of dedication, not a lot of, I would say, time and money investment, but I still think it's worth it. Because
absolutely.
The work ethic is the key. Not everybody can get there, right?
Absolutely. No, that's great. I love that. And I want to talk really quickly about hockey. I know it's a construction podcast, and we'll get to building stuff. You got great pictures of projects behind you there, which we want to talk about. But I want to talk about hockey, and I want to talk about Slovakia. First of all, I don't know who you cheer for, but producer John is a New York Islanders fan, which is just awful to begin with. But maybe you like them. I don't know. But I am... back in university, I did a 3-week with our university team. We went to Slovakia for 3 weeks. So we played, so we played a bunch of university teams over there and like toured around the country and just had a blast. I don't know where you said you grew up in central Slovakia.
Yeah. So there's not, like if you travel through Slovakia, there's the capital city is Bratislava. That's probably where you landed. And then the central part, the big city in central Slovakia where I was an hour away from it, was Banská Bystrica.
Yep.
And there is the eastern part is Košice. So and we had so it's very the Slovakia is small as Vancouver Island. Pretty much the area of my country is the same as Vancouver Island. And the population is 5.5 million. So back in the day, Slovakia or Czechoslovakia, then when we split Slovakia, produced a lot of good hockey players. So I remember when I moved to Canada in 2005, 2006, we had like almost, 30 NHLers, but they were all ranked top. Like they were, Marian Hossa, Miro Shatan,
Peter Bondra early days.
Peter Bondra, Peter Stasny, all these guys. Like
Shatan.
They were legends, right? So
totally.
So that's the pride we come here. Oh, Zdeno Chara, or this guy, Pavel Dimitra. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, good old Pavel Dimitra. Yeah. So when we were there, we went to, I can't remember which city it was in, but they had a stall where it was like Peter Bondra used to get dressed here, and it was like one of those things. And I was like, oh man, this is so epic, because Slovakia did produce, and it I think is starting to again produce some pretty good hockey players, and I know that they would, like the heyday was some time ago, but it would be great to see that all start coming back again. But when we were there during one of the NHL lockouts. So a lot of the Slovakian guys came back to play for their local teams.
Play there, yes. Wow.
So cool, man. It was epic.
And what university did you travel with? Yeah. Well, from UBC or?
We play Trinity Western, so out here in the Valley. So they're now all pretty, like they're all the university. What do they call it? I don't know. They changed it from CIS to something else now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they can play against UBC and all that kind of stuff. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we went out there. It was great, man. It was awesome.
So going back to hockey a little bit, yeah. So you're right. It's and that's why with the hockey, you work hard, but you got rewarded traveling, having fun, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
What the hockey is, I would still call it number one sport, but again, we kind of fall down a little bit because of this. It's a lot of money needs to be put in.
Yeah,
and we don't have enough rinks. So finally, government started spending more money, building more rinks. But the key is the coaching. And I believe Craig Ramsey, I'm so glad that our kind of association, the Federal Association of Hockey, managed to keep the Canadian coach, right, Craig Ramsey, to help us. And we could tell on that level that him already made a huge step, kind of bring a bit of a more modern coaching into our system. And we could tell we're not there yet, but if you keep going with this approach, spending more money, build more rinks, back in Slovakia, I think they can get back to but it's like everybody else. It's a very high competitive sport. Other countries like Germany stepped up giant, and spent a lot of money to build the hockey. So the competition is hard. So, but we are still Czech Republic, Slovakia is still top. I would say top 8 at the bottom, but still.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a goal to get better. Yes.
We could talk about hockey for a long time, and I bet you we will.
Next time in the over the lunch.
Absolutely.
Or something.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. So you're in Vancouver 2003.
Yes.
And now start the journey from there in terms of now you're getting into construction right away in Vancouver?
Well, obviously you know my background, so I grew up in a construction, not knowing that I go back when I finished my university degree with a title of engineer and business, sort of a finance, bit of a last year's specialization. So my idea when I picked this title was, I'll be running like a wood manufacturing business or some sort of a forestry manufacturing product and making money and running the show and blah, blah, blah. When I finished university, I says, let's look for what are the positions and opening. What's the pay grade there? I says, wait a minute. That doesn't even compare close to what I can make in construction. So I said, okay, fine. So I got my title. That's okay. Now let's go back to business. So I immediately after I finished university, I worked for maybe half a year for my father's company. And then we moved out to the capital city with my girlfriend and we found jobs there and was in construction. So I started after university, I started working for the largest stone masonry company back in Slovakia as a project manager, technician, site technician and project manager. Couple of years I worked for them, and then so basically we were building facades on the 10-story building facades made out of stone or interior finishes, hotels and big projects. So I gained some experience there on that end, and then we moved out. And then when I landed here in Vancouver, of course, construction was the only thing I knew, and so I found a job which was, I think I was lucky within 3 weeks of searching, yellow pages, hey, I wanted to start in with my latest experience, which was stonemasonry, which you want it to be a trade. You don't want to be I was working for my dad as a general contractor, not going to work. So I stepped into the stonemasonry business and I was hired within 3 weeks of searching as an estimator. So nice. With my degree, and I kind of lucked out, so I found a job pretty quick. Working for Italian company for 5 years. I stayed there 5 years. So obviously I worked as a technician estimator, then office manager, and then it was time to move on. And then I moved on to another company called Structure Craft Builders.
Yep.
And then I worked, so that was a CNS group was the first company. Then I moved on to Structure Craft Builders. Then I moved on to Omicron, and then I rejoined Structure Craft Builders. Mm-hmm. So, and then I moved on to Performance Construction. So I, traveled a little bit between companies, learned how it works, and I'm glad that I worked on the other side of the fence as a subtrade. I learned so much, and I'm so appreciative because you need to see the other side of the story, not just yours as a GC, or you do as I say or else. I had that, and I was treated that way many times by the big GCs when I worked as a, whether we were building design build project from structure crowd builders for a big GCs, and there was a bit of a, stigma from hard GCs. I don't care what you want, like do it. I'm not gonna pay you this and that, and you find a way how to convince people, hey, nothing's for free. If it's an extra, you pay, and if I made a mistake, I'll fix it. So I learned, and again, details and shop drawings. I have a lot of respect for designers and consultants and architects. Reason being is I got an engineering degree, and I know what it takes to, there's a lot of education and a lot of practice coming into play and practice in your field. I don't practice in my field, but I practice construction, which is the best way is to handle, get experience by working on it. So I like that, grind, rubber hits the road, work, hands-on, learn your way out. I call it a street education.
Yep.
Right. And then I have a lot of respect for the consultants, architects, because guess what? They start fresh, just plain paper. Somebody tells them, hey, I want to build this building. It's got to have 100 units, or it's got to be a school or a hospital. And they got to come up with ideas, spend hours and hours and hours drafting and redrafting, thinking, all that stuff. And you know what? The builders, that's fine. It's an art as well, but I don't like when the builders complaining about, this architects, they just draw it. They have no idea. They have more ideas than we think. But it's just one thing. It's a team effort. Mm-hmm. This is a step one, and the builders comes as a step two. And these two guys got to work. And I learned, my being on the other side of, and I was drafting myself, took the CAD drafting courses, drafted my own plans for the building, measuring the building facades, windows, windows jams, and being on the scaffold 10-story up high, winds blowing, and usually with the tape measure, moving. Oh, this is it 4 inches or 4 1/4? Wait a minute, I gotta hold on. Then how do you measure? And then you make a note, and you come back to your office and you draft it all up, and then you put it in production, and then production comes back, and then you're supervising in the installation. Oh, I screwed up. Now we got to remake the piece.
Yeah.
Those were the moments where, right fresh at the beginning, when I started working for that steel masonry company, the best experience. Tape measure, do it at all. You measure, you put it in production, you draft it, you put it in production, and if you screwed up, it's on you. And architects submit the shop drawings to architect's approval. He changes it, blah, 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 back and forth, tons. Within 2, 3, 4 years of doing this, you learn a lot. And you earn a respect to the guys who, like architects and stuff. So then, but my ultimate goal was I wanted to own a company, construction company. I wanted to be my own boss. But I knew you're just not going to get like this. There is a bumpy road, and you got to earn that position sometime. It's a long-term goal. And I remember, I'll digress back to grade 8. I was thinking about this morning when I was kind of thinking, what are we going to even talk about today? And I says, well, there was one thing came up to my mind, that my language teacher back home in grade 7, she asked us, hey, what do you remember? You guys have to have a plan where you want to be when you are 18, 19, when you finish your high school. You want to find occupation. So she gave us a homework. Think what you want to be. And I remember, and put it in an envelope, write it, put it in an envelope, and then show it to us, and I'll return it to you, and you hide it. And when you are 18, pick just forget about it. And then when you're 18, 19, you open the envelope and see whether we are getting close or whatever. So I remember what I wrote. I wrote, I want to be a civil engineer. And that's fine. So, I wrote this, I remember that. And then, I'm not a civil engineer. I was close, but I was actually I was accepted to 2 universities. When we were applying, I was accepted to be a civil engineer, and I was accepted to be forestry engineer. And I decide I don't want to be what my dad is. It's too tough, too heavy, blah, blah. Let's do this easier way. And easier is not the best way, but hey, it wasn't easy either way. And now I'm back in the construction business. So
now that you're the GC, and you know what you were talking about, being a sub trade and understanding that GC sub trade relationship. It's akin to the GC being a conductor, right? Like the architects and engineers are writing the music, and you're there to conduct the band, which is the sub trades, to make the symphony happen.
Exactly.
You know, and to do that with accuracy, so nobody's off tune or no one's coming in at the wrong time. That's all the timing stuff. So how have you been able to knit in the supply and demand attitude of subtrades based on the market? Because the market can really dictate attitude of supply and demand and how much subtrades need work. They want to take less hassle work and more work that's premier work. So have you experienced that kind of thing?
Yes. I think I understand the question fully. To answer simpler way is, if you have a relationship with I'll digress. I'll go back. So I consider GCs as a bona fide coordinator, like project manager or construction manager. He's basically, if you boil it down, it's a coordinator of works. Doesn't matter. The title doesn't really matter. You are coordinating, and coordinating is a really important work. You're a hub. You're right in the middle, and you feeding and putting a feedback back to all the other links, all the stakeholders. You said owner, architect, and engineers, consultants, third party. You know, even the bankers and financial sector, QSs. You got to respond. They reach out to you. You know, hey Daniel, what about this billing question? How you got to be ready to answer. So we are a jack of all trades, but at the same time, you need to know your business. And so that's the first thing. So I agree with that. You're just you're a giant hub of information, and the better coordinator and more organized coordinator you are, the better the outcome of the project is. That's one part. The second, and I think the more important part, is the relationship and your handling the I would call it the personas or egos, because you're dealing with hundreds different kinds of characters almost every day. Mm-hmm. Whether it's an owner, whether it's an architect, whether it's sub-trade, whether it's his employee. Sometimes you're exposed to, like, you show up as a construction manager on site. Many times, a guy of let's say a carpenter's labor was not happy because his boss didn't pay him the overtime. So he comes to, hey, can you tell my boss to pay me because I work overtime and he thinks I didn't. They even come like this, and you have to have that relationship with anybody, top or bottom person, doesn't really matter. And you got to motivate everybody. So I think, and I consider my stronger part is in this business is that I have some empathy with, I can listen and I can feel what the other side needs, because that's my ultimate role. I'm in the middle. So if I know that Mr. Owner needs this, let's say the cladding of the building has to be top notch. He doesn't care about anything else, but I have to kind of assess it and kind of have to understand what's the priority for this client, what's the priority for that client, or what about for the architect? If you create a good relationship with the team, the design team, nothing is rigid. It's give and take, and it's from both sides. But you have to know what the other side is willing to give you in order for give you something else. It's give and take all the time. I'm not going to lie. Nothing is done 100% as on the paper, because first of all, we are humans. Nothing is put 100% on paper. Even the best drawings will still have some bit of an ambiguity or some details missing, or there's conflicting details, or specifications are kind of vague, and that's a process. I'm not going to complain. Whether drawings are 90% or 95% done, it's fine. We know that. It's fact. We just got to deal with it as a builder. We got to understand. Don't blame this party because that party did their job. Now it's our party to ask a question, clarify, and build so everybody's happy. So yeah, the relationship, to answer, James, your question, relationship with the subtrades, and if market is busy, yeah, they are kind of picky sometimes. I don't want to do this job. But if you have a good relationship, they will go and work even on the Lilias project for you because they know,
Totally.
you know what? These guys or GC is feeding me work for the last couple of years, paying on time, being fair to me. We work together. It's a relationship. He needs help on a small job, and I'm not going to make too much money on it and just, less than the other guy can offer me. But hey, we have a relationship, and that's the key. And they would come and follow you and give it that little favor because they know, everybody knows, construction market is up and down, up and down. And especially in this lower mainland, it's a when I came here, I saw a huge city. Now over the 17 years, it's the players, and it's a smaller market. So you got to have the relationship. That's all what you got. That's your credibility. That's your assets to have relationship with the subtrades because ultimately they are building for you. It's not me building. Yep. I'm just coordinating. Or GC is only coordinating. I have to rely on the guys, which are the subtrades, coming to site, investing their money first, like cash flow coming from them. Like I'll tell them, okay, we have a contract, it's fine, but you come in first. You putting your first 2 months of labors, equipment on a table before you get paid. It's you come, you work, you submit an invoice in the next 30 days. So it's 60 days before you get first money. I have a lot of respect for those guys because it's on a trust, right? They come and start a project for you.
Knowing where you've come. Oh yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I think did I answer, James?
Yeah, that was
I think
good.
I answered that. It's a relationship thing.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, and I love that, and I think knowing your background and what you come up through, and knowing where you're now going with your with Performance Builders, the fact that you started on the other side contributes so much to building the quality of the relationships that bring all those projects together. I think knowing the nuances of both sides will always make of a general contractor. Knowing the nuances of a subcontractor will make them a better general contractor, right? And growing up, so my story resonates a little bit. I grew up in a construction home. My dad built specialty subcontracting businesses. My brother takes them on. You might even work with them, but I spent time in the field, lots of time in the field, saw all the nitty gritties of it, worked my way up, whatever, project management, all that kind of stuff. And now here at SiteMax. But to know the other side, you said the word empathy and you're talking about relationships, but to know that just the nitty gritties and what they go through allows you so much more understanding of how a full, complete project comes together. Not to mention the fact that you have consulting and engineering background too. To understand that whole aspect, it is another thing that you can throw into the mix on a construction job that is just so crucial to know. But my dad used to always tell me, and this is something that I had to understand, whether it's relevant to the conversation or not. He's like, I'm a specialty subcontractor. He goes, you want to go into general contracting? Because I was like, I'm leaving the family thing. I'm going to work as a project manager.
Yeah,
all this
rebel
kind of stuff.
me.
Right? And he goes, okay, here's a specialty contractor. You want to go general contracting? So you either as a subcontractor are going to know everything about nothing, or you're going to go and learn nothing about everything as a generalist, right?
Yeah,
and he goes, you can be hyper focused as a subcontractor and really know everything about nothing. And it's pretty insignificant. It's one subtrade of 20 on a job. Yeah. Or the generalist, and so that always resonated with me. But I think what you're saying in terms of all the nuances of everything, but then now as a business owner and a business leader, you do need to know a little bit more of the general overall coordinating principles, and it all comes together. I think it'll be all the best for the next stage of where you are right now, Daniel. So
well, exactly. So like I said, I 100% agree with you, Christian. It's my dad used to say, Hey, Daniel, when I was a kid, sometimes parents tell you something, you purposely don't want to even listen. Like, what do you know, Dad, or this and that. He was telling me the patience will bring the roses. Like, it's like if you're patient, the reward will come.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you got to be wired to stay in this business and stay motivated and be pumped every morning to come up, and because every day is different in this business. Sometimes you're winning, sometimes you're losing, and you just cannot. It's a daily grind, but you got to be wired to be not just like you said. It's if you want to be a sub trade and fine tune to a perfection. Like I could stay in the stonemasonry business. I could have my own company doing all the same thing and I kind of perfect it. But to me, it would be boring. To be honest, I was playing with an idea. Why not just open a small business and run it and perfect it and maybe make more money and be way ahead of because this is not an easy business. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of facets. The construction business is a complicated business where it brings a reward, but also it's a high risk because there's so many links. One link fails, whether it's your sub trade, whether it's your investor, your owner, or one of the consultants, or tons of potential failures. So,
well, it's pretty good. We were talking about the relationship you have with sub trades, and it's about character and making sure that like I've got something here. I got your new business card.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Love it.
And very nicely designed. Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
So the point of showing that is that even though construction is construction, there's still some basic business principles that transcend through every business. Mm-hmm. And that is that you're going to have your different brand audiences and the social brand touch points that you have with your trades, your business to business. Obviously, you have your business. You're a service business, so your customer is the client.
Yep.
But your business to business brand and your employer brand, that is all about character, doing what you say you're going to do, and making sure you take the high road at all times. And if you treat sub trades like you would treat your employees, because you're essentially, as a GC, you might even be treating the sub trades on your site better than their bosses treat them. If that's your goal, then the culture of your job site is always going to run optimally because they like being there. So when I hold up this business card here, I go, what you want when any field worker or foreman is going to be going to one of your projects to go, oh yeah, great, we're going to go to a performance builder site because, hey, there's always a good food truck there, washrooms are always clean, the site trailer is always dialed in, all the signage, I know where to go all the time, and they treat us well. So that is, if you dial that in, that's no different than any other business principle. The only difference is you're doing that to people from other businesses.
Mm. Yeah. I 100% agree. That's the key of, I would say it's one of the first principles, as if you want to stay in the business and, have some chance for success. Treat people, and my philosophy is don't treat people the way you don't want to be treated, and treat people the way you want to be treated. And I want to, don't just say it, do it every day. And in order to create a culture, it's easy to have a culture, and I see that in a lot of GC, way larger companies, and I used to work for one of them. If you work in a big corporate environment, there's a lot of, you don't have a chance to practice what you believe in. That's why I when I work for a corporate business, I work for Omicron for over a year. Mm-hmm. Great experience. Like you guys know, Omicron's a design build firm.
Yep.
Very successful. Mm-hmm. But I just knew that I'm not gonna be one of the corporate guys. I just wanted to be more independent. I wanted to be more doing it my way, which I believe my core values are gonna be transferred to the people and trades and sub trades and my employees the way I want it. it's not an easy road and a lot of patience. And again, I'm in a transition from, making it happen. We are, I think we will be successful, and we are at it right now. We have a couple projects in the pre-construction. We finished a couple projects. Obviously, in the last year, the development market is a little bit, slowed down because of the COVID and stuff, but it's coming back up. We see a lot of action happening, so we're bidding jobs like crazy. In the last few weeks, we were just submitting bid one after another, which is good sign. So something will come, to fruition. We might be busy even like we were in 2 years ago, or even busier. So who knows, right?
Yep.
Going back to having these experience on the other side of the fence is a key. At the same time, motivating people to come to you, work for you as a company, and come to your site. And I'll stop right there, because site, I remember at times we had like 7 projects on a go, and it's a key. Once some sites where sub-trades were saying, oh, I love to go into work for this superintendent, but I hate that one. Same company, just different sites. And it's not just superintendent, it's how you structure the site superintendent's team. And sometimes he has his own picks, but that's not the best either. So you got to work with everybody as a company owner. You got to know, okay, this superintendent, Joe, I know what he's good at, and you got to help him with obviously on him kind of agreeing what you're giving him, but you got to give him the support he needs. If Joe is great builder but not very good on a computer, you obviously want to give him, and he wouldn't admit it. Joe wouldn't admit it. I'm a great superintendent. I know computer. What are you talking about? Like just give me Jimmy. He's my buddy. No. I'll give you somebody else who is going to support you on the computer. He will send a PO, whatever, blah blah blah. I'm not saying, but that kind of thing, right? So you got to help to create that team by knowing the sub-trades. These sub-trades, which we usually work with, they would love to come work for this team. And you assemble that team for them, and they go, oh, great, And I can say that I had an example where we didn't have a great team, and I realized that halfway through the project, something's got to happen. We got to do some changes. Changes are slow, painful, but at the end, it worked out. And then next, and the best way to practice, if you have a brand new project and you can dictate, okay, I'm getting this superintendent, this safety officer, this finishing superintendent assistant, blah, blah, blah. Usually you want to have 4 to 5 guys as a team build a building. Doesn't matter what size. 30 units, 100 units, you need enough 4 to 5 guys. If you put them together well, the job goes smooth. And I'll just point out the project behind me. It's a very, one of the nicest project on the campus, I would say. It's called the Basalt.
Yep.
We just finished last summer for one of our clients. Very good client. And so I keep it there because it reminds me, I was able to practice what I just said. I was able to pick the superintendent. I was able to pick the team. And I knew that if we pick this team, that we'll be successful. And I'm not trying to brag because we had some challenges, but at the end of the day, overall, I think the result shows it was client happy, projects good quality, and that was because I applied what I learned over the years.
Right. I got a question, and I don't know if there's an answer to it. Do you think that there are? This also kind of leads into the transition of you of the business, right? And you running performance builders. But do you think there's a lot of general contractors out there in 2021 who understand the things that we've been talking about and what runs an effective job site and what brings people together to really, like you point to a picture of a building and it brings back a memory of how it all came together, right? And like everything that went into it, and the practices that you put into play, and kind of this ethos, let's call it, that you've created for performance builders. Do you think there are more general contractors taking that approach, or do you think there still are quite a few that are old school in their approach, in just grumpy superintendent yelling at people, trying to get things done? Like, is there a trend going in a different direction? Like, what do you think?
I think there's nothing actually. I'm kind of a little sad to see old grumpy old school superintendent coming off. They're retiring, because the new school, and I would say there's a bit of a gap, and that gap, maybe not a bit of it, it's a huge gap. We technologically we grew very fast over the last decade, I would say, right? Our last 10 years, it was just a boom. And if something grows fast, there's not enough time to grow and have educate the next generation up, right? It just suddenly
knowledge
from
gap.
old school to a new technological era, boom, suddenly we are having meetings over the Zoom, and there's not enough time one-on-one, old superintendent teaching young superintendent, and giving him enough. I think we're gonna suffer a little bit. The middle generation having experience of the old school common sense thinker, to a younger generation being all digital. There's a bit of there's something's got to be in you need a hybrid of these two minds in order to have the transition slowly to I would say digital era or whatever. But I think there's a bit of a vacuum there. So, and I'm in that age, and that experience that I think I should be successful, because I have all these little things. I'm the middle. Bit of an old school thinking, and coming from the European background, where there was a just hard work attitude, and sometimes you were just relying on common sense. Nobody would save you. You got your redneck's brain. I call it a redneck's brain. You drop down in the middle of the jungle, you figure it out. Use your nobody's going to take care of you. You figure it out. And I'm finding that sometimes this common sense is missing in this business. But hey, it's a lot of you just gotta keep thinking positive and educate. Like I like hiring people, and I'm not hiring. When I hire people, I don't hire them because they have 10 years of experience working as a construction manager, project manager. If that person doesn't strike me with a good values and attitude, I would rather go to a guy, with the good common sense, a healthy, you can teach. If you have a good attitude, work attitude and work ethic and good, background, you can teach magics in a very short time. So that's my attitude, and I'm willing to, and I believe I'm doing it, sharing that with the generation, whether even my peers or younger, or it doesn't matter. Even I approach my older superintendents, and I'm trying to, hey, what do you need? How can I help you? What do you feel? And don't feel that I want to make you feel less stressed and more successful. So we just got to be more open. I think we don't want to just, many times, as I said at the beginning, people just trying to be more politically correct. And again, we are in Canada, so that's the country where I'm kind of, I mentioned that, I was having, less and less because it's my 17, 18 years now, but at the beginning I was kind of, everybody appeared to me at the beginning like, why everybody's so politically correct? Nobody's telling you the way like it is. Everybody's trying to kind of wrap it around, don't offend nobody. And in this business, sometimes you got to be a little bit more, honest, straightforward. Just say it how it is. And sometimes the truth hurts, but at the end of the day, it's a quick solution, because you said it. If
There's
you
a lot
hold
of
it for
moving
too
parts.
long, and you kick it further down the road, let's say, like you know about the problem and you don't want to say it because you're afraid that somebody's going to look at it that you failed. Guess what? You kick the can further down the road. 2 months later, that problem is it could be solved in a one conversation. Now it's a problem costing you money, time, and your reputation is down the hole. Anyways.
I love it. That's a great point.
You know what? Straight shooters, they it's sometimes painful, but that's my opinion. If it's not right, if you feel it's not right, I'm not saying it's my opinion is 100%, but at least I say it. It's off my chest, and now it's there, and we will find a solution.
Well, since our first pub lunch there, I could, and even the first phone calls I had with you, I remember Bernie, the other fellow from performance. He said, talk to Daniel. I'm like, okay. So I talk to you. I'm like, okay, what's he going to be like? And then I get you on the phone, and I can tell that you are very direct. But you know, kudos to you. You have learned a little bit of the Canadian way, and it's pretty good.
Still learning.
You've got that nice little blend there of, you know, being very polite, but you know, knowing what you want.
Keep the hybrid approach. The combination.
Yeah, the hybrid is very good. Yeah.
I call it an SUV approach. You want to have a a bit of an everything utility. You know, it's a utilitarian approach. Like you want to be able to, you know, have a comfortable ride, but also going to go off road, and you know, go to a theater in that same SUV. You got to, you know, multiple use. You know.
I agree.
It's time for a little bit of hot seat situation for you. We're going to put you on the rapid fire. Christian's got some questions for you.
Smoke.
And just super quick answers. And we will, maybe except for the last ones. And then we'll let you say a little bit of a thing about your company and why people should work with you. And then, this has been good. So, Christian, take it away, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, Daniel, great conversation. And putting you in a little bit of the hot seat here. Sometimes we send these up beforehand. You're being a good sport and taking these right off the cuff. So here, I'll throw these at you. So Daniel, in general, what inspires you?
Whew, that's a little. Hey, this is too philosophical. I don't know if I can answer that quick. But listen, what inspires me is I know what I want to say. I just got to say it right.
No worries. Take your
just time. I would say be honest and hard work. I don't know, that comes to my mind because, and it's I don't want to sound it like a cliche, but if you are true yourself, do as you think you should be doing. Don't bow unnecessarily. Just be yourself, and you know the success will come. I think just keep going through the way you feel you were born and you believe, because I call it the gut feel. My old mentor, he says, hey, I don't care what you think. What is your, and I show like belly, like what this is telling you. And I believe that's where it comes from. Always don't shoot fast, think first. I call it listen, think, and then your gut will tell you which direction to go. And I'm kind of practicing this every day.
No, that's fantastic. That's a great answer. Okay, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Are you a reader or are you a podcast listener?
I have so many books which I haven't read. When I will have more time, I will read, because it's. But I'm not. I'm a podcaster listening to the. It's easy, right? It's quick.
Nice.
A lot of information, quick and easy.
So, what's your favorite podcast?
Well, like I said, I'm gonna call it SideMax. Your podcasts are really good, because in this business, beside of the business, I'm gonna. It's an independent, sort of I would say more conservative, independent journalism.
Totally.
I don't follow the mainstream, because mainstream is kind of you want to have the other side of the story, like I'm almost like a contrarian in a way that if everyone tells you go this way, you start suspecting, hey, wait a minute, why is everybody going this way? I'll start listening and watching whether that's the right direction, and then pick one, right?
All right. No, totally. Okay, here's one for you, habits related. What's something that you believe that others would think is insane?
So, can you repeat it again?
What is something that you believe or that you do that other people would think is insane or maybe strange?
Well, I'll answer the same way. Way back when I moved here in 2003, it took me probably 5 years to learn. Like, I was speaking my language. I was saying what I thought, and people were looking at me, why would you say such? Like, you're crazy. So I would say on the same thing. Sometimes just speak your opinion. You could go against masses. You could be 1 out of 100, but don't give up. Just say it. And those 99, you would be telling you, oh, you're crazy. Why did you say such a thing? Now everybody's going to put that you look stupid. But if you believe it's done, then just carry on. So maybe not the best example, but I was in a situation that majority of the group looked at me like, what a idiot, he just said something and he knew everybody's didn't like what he's gonna say, but he just still said it. Why did you say it? So I don't know if that's the right answer, but I'm just nothing else I'm trying to,
Yeah.
I feel the empathy with so many people, so I usually adjust myself to the other party. Like I could be maybe we can talk about ego a little bit. We haven't, so I digress for 20 seconds.
Sure.
I'm trying to park my ego almost every single time I'm going to a meeting. So we all have egos, right? But ego is a damaging component of if it comes to a project or even a relationship, right? Park it. Go to a meeting, find a solution, listen to the other party, find the common grounds, come out and put your ego back on because you need it here and there, right? But not, So I'm just saying that I'm trying to. I'm very easy and I'm very accommodating to everybody. My family at home, my wife, my kids, my bosses, my clients, my partners, my employees, my subtrades, everybody. Many times I listen. This is you're right, and I think that's the strength that's why I'm kind of trying. If I see something that somebody's going to looking at me that I'm crazy, I'm not going to get to that situation because I know that I can easily just So
perfect.
That's
What? Yeah, absolutely. Daniel, what's the most important piece of your background that contributes to success at Performance Builders today?
Like I said, the upbringing. I grew up in a communist era, first 14 years, which taught us a lot. Nothing's for free. You got to work hard and you got to grind. You got to be listening. You got to work. You got to perform. And my parents, when I was growing up, we're not very. I would say we were just standard. Middle income family, and in the communism that was not much. So. I always wanted to, and that taught me a lot, work hard, get somewhere else, move as far west as you can from this regime so you can listen to the music you want, but work hard. So those attributes stayed. Work hard and then the success will come at some point. But I was believing that success would come somewhere else outside of my native country. So I moved as far as I could have and I'm here. So I'm still grinding,
Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
answer this, Daniel. Two more here. What's the most challenging part of working in the construction industry?
The most challenging part is to control. I would call it that the construction guys they are detailed, but in general terms, no. They want to just cut it quick. They're good guys, but many guys in construction business are not very detail oriented. They just want to cut it short, get it done, and show, hey, I built it, pay me up. And that's why I have a lot of respect for like I said at the beginning, for the consultants, because those are the guys who are very detail oriented. And I want to apply that detail orientation because then if you apply a bit of more detail orientation to the builders and contractors, cross your T's, dot the I's, and then you have a decent, let's say, scope or contract. So there's not much we can argue about down the road. So
Totally.
Don't cut corners, be due diligent at the beginning, and then it's easy. And I'm finding that people just, I forgot to include this, and suddenly we have $100,000 change order because he was rushing Friday afternoon, not cutting a contract properly, and suddenly we are here battling with the either owner or a subtrade over $100,000, and that's where majority of the fights come. Building is easy because your subtrades, you're relying on the subtrades. You have a good contracts with 33 subtrades. You mentioned 20. This is actually 33, and funny statistics is 60,000, or one of the PM books were saying one building, like in general terms, includes 66,000 parts to put together. So. And we have 33 trades to coordinate and do it. So cutting corners at the beginning, when you're reviewing drawings and putting scopes together and making contracts, is a key. And sometimes we tend to cut the corners and get it quick.
I must have been managing really simple projects then with only 20 people, with only 20 trades.
No, but listen, you're right. But those are tiny. So in general, when I look at my bid list, I see 33 different categories of the contracts, and then there is like we want to have 5 or 6 good trades within that each category, so we can go and spread the work, right?
Totally. Okay, last one. We're called the Site Visit. Okay, we're all about leadership and construction, which we've absolutely heard from you, but we're also about perspective from the job site. What is your favorite or most memorable story from the job site?
Like favorite on like.
It could be anything. It could be funny. It could be educational. It could be anything.
I would say it's not. The most memorable is that we were building a building, and it's not. I'm not going to say what building. I'm not going to say names. We were building a building, and it was a structural failure, but not a building didn't collapse. But it was a brand new building, and we were supposed to, get it done quick, and suddenly, one of the columns didn't perform the way it should have been, and then it started having a ripple effect. So the story of this is never rely and check and triple check and quadruple check everything before you. Sometimes I would say there's several checkpoints failed, and we could have caught it, but not that anybody's because it was fixed pretty quick. But it was one of those things that don't rely. Double check, triple check, going back to those details. Don't rely on sub-trades to check for you. If you're a superintendent or project manager, and if you see something, double check, triple check. So I would say I learned, and I'm not going to say too much story about it, but it's just that was a memorable for me. It could go a bad way. It didn't go because we kind of paid attention. I'm glad the whole team kind of got together. Oh, wait a minute, something is failing. Let's fix it. And we did. We brought everybody on board, all the consultants or the owners. We cooked a solution. It was a good solution coming out. So that's, I would say, the most memorable was this because it was big. Potentially it could have been big, and it was so I remember that, and I'll probably just apply this experience.
Totally. Well, you survived the rapid fire round, and I know I know that the last question there is oftentimes you think that people are like, it's got to be funny or hilarious or a terrible story, but oftentimes the most memorable are the things we learn the most, from a certain experience, and that's one of those. So I think those things stick with us throughout our careers. So thanks, but. Daniel, great conversation. James, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, tell our audience, Daniel, what your pitch about your taking over the company. Anything last words you just want to say in terms of people getting to know you?
I think I said it throughout the podcast, but if they have to just catch the last 5 minutes or a minute, I would say that and I'll show this card again, and I'll zoom in. I'm trying to be leaner, faster, smarter, better, and real.
I like it.
I say it, and I put an emphasis on the last word, real, because that's who I am. If I say something, I wanna, and this is not a cliche. Like if I say something, I wanna make it happen for you. So if you're a client looking for a decent builder who's trying to solve the problems early with the detail, whether it's analysis of the drawings or detail analysis of the pricing, this is where this company wants to go. Solve the problems early, and type the contracts in detail manner, because then everything else is easy afterwards, because we can manage trades, and we have really good relationship with the local good sub trades who are willing to work with us and being a part of the team. And one thing I forgot to mention, James and Christian, SiteMax been great. And again, I said it to James yesterday, we grew together, I would say. Mm-hmm. And absolutely. you guys are about the details too, because it's all, I like this hub, of the information. You can have the photos, daily site reports, safety reports, everything. And it's been super easy to use, and we were able to work with you guys to customize it to our likings, what we want, whether it's RFI log or whatever. I love the product. You know, you guys put it together such that is really useful for the general contractors and subtrades and builders in general. I really like the product, so it's kudos to you guys, and I'm glad I was able to speak on your podcast. You know, I made it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
I appreciate it.
Some amazing stuff there.
Some good years ahead. We look forward to it, continuing to work together and shaping things.
Same here. Yes.
Awesome.
The devil is in the details. Like I'll end up with the hockey analogy because my kids. Actually, one of the coaches who coached my kid since he was 7. He's a former NHLer. He played for the Washington Capitals, and he played with Peter Bondra, who was a big in Capitals, right? And he scored. He had to end the career very quickly because only a few years, and he had a concussions, blah blah blah, whatever. But he is the detail guy, and he's telling my kid, and when we had conversation, the devil is in the details. You gotta work these edges out, like until you can make him in the middle of the night. When I wake you up, you gotta do this outside, inside, do whatever. And he says it's not the big thing, it's little things which are making you a better hockey player. It's the tiniest detail ever. So that comes from NHL, who actually still holds the record, scoring 4 goals in 1 game as a rookie.
Who is it?
That's his name is. Hopefully, I can mention his name. Yogi Svejkovsky.
Okay, that's cool.
He's a Czech player who was drafted and very young, talented player for Washington. But then he had to end his career because of the concussions. But he still holds the record, I believe, 4 goals in 1 game as a rookie. And we were lucky enough that he coaches both of my kids. So
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we got some future Slovak Canadian stars, hockey stars coming up.
Whoa, hopefully.
Daniel's boys. Here we go.
Okay, awesome.
Love
Thanks,
it.
guys.
Thank you so much, Daniel.
All right. Thanks for listening to The Site Visit, a podcast dedicated to leadership in construction with perspective from the job site. If you like the show, please subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or Google Play. To learn more, check us out online at thesitevisit.com.